Awesome. Okay. Hi there. So we are going to talk about pre-ETS data. And one of the things with the pre-ETS data is that data collection is only by VR employees or contractors, thus YTP transition specialists. And it just means, and this is in your pre-ETS data manual about it has to be VR delivered, VR coordinated, or VR purchased. So within schools under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, some of these services are still provided, but they're not provided either under these fashions, so they don't get kind of counted as pre-ETS data. So it doesn't mean that these services can't happen outside of this, but in order for that to be recorded as data, VR employees or contractors need to do this. And it is part of the requirement of the Workforce and Innovation Opportunity Act, WIOA. And we're just, this is, I just want to mention, this is very brief training for the community of practice because there's a lot of information within the data, and we'll be talking about the future of data and data training as well. So just a reminder, because we don't know, there might be some new, actually I know there is because I was on a call with someone who had been recently hired. So the 5 required pre-ETS are job exploration counseling, work-based learning experience, counseling on enrollment opportunities, as well as transition services, workplace readiness training, and instruction in self-advocacy. So these are the ones that are going to be going into the pre-ETS database on the U of O site. So. This funny animation. Okay.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. Are you ready?
Yep. So Triana's going to be talking about most of this, and I will interject as needed.
Okay, 2021 data submission. Data submission is based on information, well, we submit it to the Rehabilitation Services Administration on a quarterly basis. This means that there are cutoffs, and we are required to submit that information by certain dates. 2020 data collection, the first quarter that we're running into right now, we are starting this. It is October 5th. It starts on October, oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, that one's done.
Oh, that one's done. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, everyone should have already submitted all their data.
Wait a minute here. Okay, that was for pre-ETS data from 7/1 to 9/30. Quarter 2 is what we're sitting in right now. That will be due on January the 5th by 5 p.m. And that is for 10/1 through 12/31. 2021, we're looking at quarter 3, April 3rd by 12 p.m. And again, the quarter is 1/1 to 3/31. And you'll notice that each of these dates is at the end of a 3-month period of time. So our quarters are chunked starting on January 1st and then rolling through that way. We can go to the next slide, I think. Keep in mind that those due dates are contracted, so they are dictated by our current contract. Now, hypothetically, should you need an extension, please contact myself or CJ, and we'll be happy to, work with you to the best of our abilities.
I think it's
now SSID versus, oh, what was that, CJ?
It's important if you are going to have an issue with the due date to let us know prior to that due date.
Yes, definitely. We do pull the data after that due date. So as soon as we pull that information, that's when we start working on it and preparing it and putting it into another database, which is then submitted on something called the RSA 9/11 report. So it's a big, huge report that comes out as a bunch of zeros and ones and wouldn't make sense to anybody. But it is important that we get that submitted on time because we do have federal deadlines. SSID versus school ID. So an SSID will always be 7 to 8 digits, whereas a school ID will have 6 digits. There is a difference, and the SSID is what we use to enter the students into our end of the databases. And always remember to double check that work and save, because it's not easy to make alterations after you've saved it. So always make sure that is accurate. Okay, we can probably go to the next one. Okay, race and ethnicity. This hasn't changed yet. The race options currently are the standard: American Indian, Alaska Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, or white. Now, if multiple races are needed, so you can go ahead and select multiple races as best describes the student. Now, race and ethnicity are different. So an ethnicity must be picked along with a race. And so if the student is not Hispanic, you would choose not Hispanic. If the student is Hispanic, you choose Hispanic along with it, or not self-identified. Okay. And
I think the one thing that's always to remember, and it's a hard one, but if someone might not know what race to pick if they're Hispanic, and so if nobody knows what that is, then we want to pick white. So
yes,
there has to be some kind of race there with someone who's Hispanic.
yes, that is accurate. Okay, now start and end dates. This is a tricky one because it's kind of sometimes hard to comprehend. Now, all of the services must occur during the current reporting quarter for us to actually track them and get credit for them. So this means if you have an end date that is outside of that quarter, it actually needs to be end dated either within that quarter, or you can leave it blank, which means that it is essentially vacant and you don't know when the end date will be. And the reason behind this is because sometimes pre-ETS services, they fall under multiple different quarters. Now keep in mind, when those do fall under multiple different quarters, you will need to report them for each quarter. And I think that's the next slide, and it has a great example on there.
I think there's the words, and then we'd have a chart.
Yeah, okay. So hypothetically, so if the service spans multiple quarters, you need to record that date for each quarter. So hypothetically, if the class went from 2.5 to 4.14, that is 2 quarters. That first quarter will end on March 31st, and it will begin on 4.1. So this is over 2 quarters. So for the first one, you would enter 2.5 and no end date. Now for the second quarter, you would enter 4.1, and if the class ended on 4.15, you would enter 4.15. Now if that class was still going throughout that quarter into another quarter, you would again leave that end date open.
I just want to mention the note at the bottom here before I go to the next slide is the current pre-ETS manual does say to go back and add the end date. If it's outside of the quarter, please do not go back and put an end date. So we'll show you the example.
Yeah, you can just leave that blank if it is outside of the current quarter. Okay, and as you can see, instruction in self-advocacy, the start date was 2.5, and the end date, as it's 4.15, you've left that blank. Now, the next quarter, you're going to have a start date of 4.1 because that is the first day of the quarter, with an end date of 4.15 because that was the last date of services provided. And yeah.
And the reason with this, that this can happen, and you can see on these slides, it says frequency 6 to 10 times. So that's one of the pieces that you're documenting in here, so that if you are having like that self-advocacy class that went from February to April, that you can put it and enter it only once per quarter. So you want to make sure, because you did go over those 2 quarters, it's 6 to 10 times that you did it. So we know that when you put in that February date without an end date, and said 6 to 10 times, that it's going on, that this is something that you're doing multiple times and it's continuing. So you've got these options for frequency to say, like, if you do have a class that's going to go for 2 months, 6 months, whatever that might be, so you can utilize that frequency to say what that is, so you would only be entering that one per each quarter.
Yeah.
And then you've got that for the duration. The duration's pretty self-explanatory. What type, how long is that class or that activity that you did with the student? And then when did it happen? Now the when is a little bit trickier right now because we are virtual. So you want to just kind of take it in context of the virtual school day. So just thinking about that as the same thing. So again, if it's saying that it's at lunchtime that you did something with a student, if it's at their current lunchtime, even though it's virtual, then you would still mark it as such. So you can always ask about those questions, because maybe we can talk about which fits best um, for what you've provided.
Yeah. No, just to interject that frequency, hypothetically, it's something that I see a lot. If you have a student who's enrolled in a class, and so you're meeting, say, every Wednesday, that would be one entry with multiple frequencies, as opposed to an entry for each class that that student participated in. Because it's, you know, it's a waste of your time to enter it individually when realistically it was multiple. The frequency was extended. So you would enter the first date of the class as the beginning and the last date of the class as the ending. Okay. Okay, data integrity. Accuracy is so incredibly important because this is information that we are submitting to the federal government, and it does reflect on our program and our performance. So these are performance indicators, is this information that we're submitting to them. And so it's very important that the data is verifiable and that it's accurate, it's truthful, complete, and retrievable. This means that you should be able to source back to it, verify it, and make sure that it is accurate prior to submitting it. Because again, this is something, once it's submitted to the federal government, we can't get it back. So when it's done, it's done. Yeah, and it's important to our program. So, yep. And if you have any questions, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to myself or CJ. We're always very happy to assist. Yep.
News.
Yeah. News and coming soon. So this is really exciting. We are both updating the PREETS manual and we're working on a detailed training video. They will come out together in November. And these should be, we're very excited about it. It should cover a great deal of information and it'll be a resource that you can use as needed. And again, if you have questions about that one, let us know.
The one thing I also think with that is if you have particular scenarios that you've come across that you feel that have been unclear to you and you think that it might help for us to put it in the training video, please let us know as soon as you can so we can maybe utilize those examples, because we're going to go into a lot of different kind of what if scenarios in that training video.
Yes, absolutely. You know, any information that we can source from you, who are the actual users, would be fantastic. If you've run into issues, have ever had questions, or just think that it is something that others would benefit from knowing, that's something that we would absolutely love to know about. Okay, oh, next piece of news. We have a new YTP coordinator, and this YTP coordinator will be announced this week. We're so excited, and we're kind of, yeah, we're on pins and needles to be able to tell everybody who it is. And as always, we strive to increase the number of students receiving PREETS. And, you know, we do what we can to do that. And if you have suggestions, please don't hesitate to reach out, ask, or send them to us. CJ, do you have anything else?
Don't.
No? Okay.
I have a question from the field.
Okay.
I would like to be able to add all PREETS at once for each student. Lori, can you talk more about that? What do you mean by all at once?
For instance, you know, say Johnny did 3 different PREETS at once. I would like to be able to click all 3 of those and hit add, but instead I have to go back each time to Johnny and have to add Johnny did this and then go back and add Johnny did each different PREET. I can't add 3 PREETs for Johnny at once.
No, that is something that stems from the current YTP database, I believe, and that's not something that we can necessarily change. I don't think so. CJ, what are your thoughts on that one?
So for instance, like when I'm adding a class, like for instance, when we're doing a transition class and I have 20 kids in there, and we're doing maybe multiple PREETs at once, it's pretty time consuming.
Absolutely. CJ, what are your thoughts on that one?
Unfortunately, I don't have a solution right now, and maybe that's something that that we can put on our list to consider for the future as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, there's another question, Jesse. So Jesse asks, what should a person do if they missed adding some pre-ETS, but the pre-ETS didn't end until the following quarter?
If hypothetically that happens and we have already submitted the report, you will go ahead and essentially the previous quarter, we can't use that data, so there's no need to report that. But go ahead and report a new pre-ETS starting on the first date of the new quarter, and then extend that out and have the end date of the actual service when it ended. So
the other thing too is, let's say data was due on the 5th of this month for ending September 30th. And let's say, Jesse, you go, oh my gosh, I forgot to enter this, and it's the 8th. So just a couple days after when it was due. Get a hold of us, because we can still get that into the final report, but we don't want you putting it into the YTP pre-ETS database right now. We'll let you know when to do that, because you can do it after the fact. But if we have an error or anything like that, we want to keep all of that information kind of as pure as we can while we're entering data. You also had another piece to your question.
Yeah, and I'm asking these questions because they're ones I've heard from within the region and around the state in the past. So second part was, what about it ended and they missed the date? But I think that was on there.
So the pre-ETS ended?
The pre-ET ended and they missed entirely, which Triana answered. She said, sorry, it's too late.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we missed it.
And if you put the pre-ETS in there with the start date without an end date, that's still okay. Even if it did end in the quarter and you forgot to go back and end it, that's totally okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
And just to reinforce that, if you do miss that previous quarter and it's still extended into the next quarter, definitely please make sure to enter that. You would enter it anyway, but make sure to enter that with the start date being the very beginning of that quarter.
Yeah, this is the data that we just pulled. There was quite a bit that end dates, start dates were in the quarter, so they were started in September, and then we had end dates in December as well as even in June. So and nobody goes back and puts new information about that pre-ETS for the future quarters, that data is only reported once, because we go by the start date. So that end date being in June, we will not capture it for the quarter of October to December, and we will not capture it for January to March, and we will not capture it from April to June. So you need to enter each of those quarters separately without end dates, so that whoever put it in for June, you would put an October 1st date, no end date. A January date, no end date, and so on. So you really want to make sure that you're looking at data kind of by each quarter when you're doing that. And if you have a question and you go back and you see it, don't go and change the information that's already in there. Just move forward and putting that, because it's really that start date that's going to be that kind of tickler for us to enter it into the final federal report. Good question, Michelle. Accidentally put students in there twice. Just let us know. So email Triana and I, and between the two of us, we will get that corrected, and making sure that the one thing is that we always look at is everything correct? Because sometimes there's 2 students in there, and maybe the second one got added because the SSID needed to be corrected. So we'll look at all of that, make sure that information is correct, and we'll always let you know when we correct it as well. Oh, and you want to know, here, I'll just put the next slide up and you'll have email. But we'll still answer any other questions, even if it's any questions. There are no too small, there's no small question with data, so.
So you always put a start date and you only put an end date when the activity ends. That's what I heard. Is that right?
Correct.
That is correct, unless that activity ends in a future quarter. If that activity ends in a future quarter, you can leave the end date blank.
Right. You only put the end date when the class is over, but you can count. Okay, that's.
If it ends in the current quarter, absolutely put that end date in. If that class is going to end in a future quarter, just go ahead and leave it blank until, you know, and again, if that class does end in a future quarter, you're going to record and insert or record and that pre-et for every quarter that it is done. So if it's done over the course of, say, 5 months and it falls into 3 different quarters, you will record that pre-et for 3 different quarters.
Yep. And Melody has a question. If you have a monthly pre-et, should we enter them monthly? So is that you're saying like once a month, or you're kind of doing it all in a month? Melody, which do you want to unmute or?
It's once a month that I meet with a student to do pre-ets. I meet with all my students once a month.
For something like that, you can just, you know, it's up to you, but because it's a standing, essentially a standing class, then you could go ahead and record that once with multiple occurrences. So that's my take on it. CJ, how about you?
If you know you're going to be doing it the third Wednesday of every month, so for 1 quarter you could mark it for 3 times, and the next quarter 3 more times. Because that frequency is what helps capture the amount of times.
Oh, okay, that's perfect. That answers my question. Thank you.
And that allows you to do a little less entry.
Absolutely.
Now,
Yes, because I forgot to.
That's okay.
And we do know some people do like weekly checks. Please keep doing that. There's a lot of people that do weekly entries. And that weekly entry, it's just about looking and making sure, have you caught everything? Because you do a lot of work. And now with being virtual, all our work habits have been changing. And so we don't have some of the triggers that we used to of like, oh, I have this posted on my desk. Well, now it's, you know, where is that? So just kind of get into your own groove of what's going to work best for you to kind of remember those and be able to put in the pre-ets, so that you capture what you have done without kind of only entering one at a time.
Okay, any other questions? No. Okay.
No.
If you have any questions or think of anything down the road or at a later date, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask. We're more than happy to assist in any way possible and always happy to answer questions. So thank you for giving us some of your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, CJ and
Triana. Triana, like a tree on a hill, kind of, or a tree on a street, or I don't know, something like that.
Okay, thank you.
You guys are so accessible. Thank you.
It looks like there's one question out here from.
What did we have?
I'm sorry, somebody else was trying to speak too. I was going to say, it looks like there's one question from Kia Swain, who raised her hand.
Oh.
Let's see if we can.
Jesse, sorry. I kind of joined late, coming from another meeting, but I've always, the one thing about the pre-ets, is there a place, and I think I brought this up to Michelle Markle, that says the time frame, right? So you know how we have the different quarters and things like that. And I'm always like, what is the quarter? Where is this? And is there somewhere that is like Lisa Catherine, what I remember when I first started, she used to give us these little cards, right? That said that this quarter is for these dates. And so, but I only got that one time, and I'm like always wondering where to look, where to go.
Well, presentation earlier, so you should be able to. I believe that Garrett's going to post this. So is that right? You're recording this, including the presentation, I believe.
Yes.
And so that should be located in. I want to say like the 3rd or 4th slide in there. It does have the dates for both submission dates and the quarter dates themselves. So when those quarters fall. Yeah.
And Kia, it's actually in your contract. So it was updated this contract now has the actual quarter dates and the due dates for a data submission in the contract.
Well, I did not know that. Thank you,
I
Susan.
did not know that. Thank you.
Yeah, I just found out. I just saw it. I actually saw it.
Okay.
Where is that contract? I don't know where
The
do you,
YTP contracts that each school or
Oh,
ESD has, it's within those contracts.
Oh, it
It's in
wasn't?
all of those contracts. Yeah, Lisa made sure that was in all of those contracts.
I don't remember that. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thanks again. And they're very accessible. Their emails are up there. Feel free to contact either person. And for our next group of people, we have Nicole and Sarah, and they're going to introduce themselves and tell you what they're going to talk about.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sarah Statham, and I am a transition network facilitator, and I serve everyone in Region 1, which is Multnomah, Washington, Columbia, and Clatsop counties. Nicole, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Nicole Purdue, and I'm a TNF pre-ETS support specialist for Lane, Benton, Lincoln, and Marion counties. Go ahead, Sarah.
So Nicole and I have been asked to share with you 2 new websites that we have been a part of developing with teams, respective teams that we've been working with. And so I'm going to share with you the new transition educator website. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to put this web address in the chat. It's long at the moment, everyone. So we're hoping to figure out how to shorten it, but that hasn't quite happened yet. So this is the Transition Educator Resources website. And this website came to be because last spring, when we were all suddenly stuck in our houses, yet teachers were still being asked to create miracles and present educational information to all of the students that we all serve. Several of us started hosting professional learning communities for transition educators. And so what we found was that no one should be surprised, but there's a wealth of information that all these teachers had. And so we started collecting, and we're housing in different locations that only some people could access. And yet we had all this great material. So we were asked to develop a website that teachers across the state, and frankly, anyone could access all the different resources that all these teachers were sharing with so many of us. And so from those PLCs have come this website. I think some of you probably are maybe starting to be familiar with it, and but I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the website and the way it's organized, and highlight some of the materials that are on it. So the way this is organized, it is organized using the transition page of the IEP as its general framework, which then other things added to it. So you will be able to see they're in a variety of places. So you can see over here, and then I'll scroll down and I'll show you that there are where you can locate. These are all pages that have different resources on them. So just like the transition page, we have a whole page on employment, we have a page on education and our training, independent living, and then we have these other pages. We have a page on online teaching and learning. Then we have a page of resources with all of our community partners. We have COVID-19 specific information, the pre-ETS resources website, a link to that, which Nicole is going to share about, and then other resources and how to connect anyone on the TTAN. All that information is, those are all pages that we've got here. We are trying to highlight different topics every so often. This month right now, we have a lot of great information that I'll show you about voting, how to make sure all of the students that are eligible are registered to vote, how to be an informed voter. It's pretty great. There are a lot of resources on this website, so I just want to highlight this button up here, which is a search button. So you, hopefully, if you have a topic or you have some keywords in your mind, if you click on the search, it'll pop this up and you should be able to hopefully find some materials that will be helpful to you. We just added this today, so new materials are going to be posted on most Mondays. So if you click there, we'll highlight some of the new materials that we've added to the website. So you can also find different things, the different pages, you can get to them by coming down here and linking to them here as well. So I'm just going to walk you through each of these pages really quick and just highlight a couple things. So we do have a whole page on employment. We've broken this down into a couple of different categories, and you'll find that on each page we'll have a couple of different categories. Career exploration materials. And then underneath that, we're trying to give each thing some different headings as it seems appropriate. And you'll also see this little caret right here, and that is an indicator that that is a resource that we think has more visuals, lots of pictures, and may be more appropriate for students with limited reading ability. Lots of work evaluation materials, interest inventories. And then at the bottom of each page, you're going to find lessons that are relevant to the page topic. So these are going to be a variety of employment lessons. And we need to give a big shout out to Josh Barber. He is like the lesson writing king. It's amazing. So he's written a lot of these lessons on here. So it'll give you a lesson plan. There's often visuals that go with these lessons as well. Lots of different lessons with every one of these pages. And so then we've got education and training. You'll find information here for students that are interested in attending community college or a four-year university. There's good information about high school versus college. There's good information about how to do the FAFSA forms. There are even some college campus tours that you can access via the web right now as well. Lots of training resources here. We're trying to put here online ways to do things like get your food handler's card, how to do, like there's the OLCC licensing is on here, and we're working to get some other training resources up here, like how to do, get your Red Cross first aid, all that sort of thing. We're working on equity and education resources. So we have lots of things here, and we've been working with a couple of folks to help us with adding more appropriate and relevant material for our equity education resources as well. And again, you'll find lessons. This is a nice one about the difference between high school and college, which is often sometimes a rude wake-up call for a few folks when they realize that it is different. And then there's a nice one about disclosing your disability in the college, a good lesson plan for that. Nicole, are there any questions I should answer at this point?
There is a great comment about adding a DMV modified cheat sheet for testing, and then that's it for now.
Okay. Again, if you have resources that you think should be added to this website, you are more than welcome to send those to me, send those to whoever your TNF is, and we will get them added to the website. We have regular meetings as we're working to make sure everything is current and we're and organized. There's so many amazing and wonderful resources out there, and we're trying not to overwhelm everyone, yet at the same time giving you access to things that are that we think are really great. Here are,
Oh,
yes.
sorry, Sarah. This is Mary Jo. Are you gonna, is there a spot where you might at some point or something have more regional things like these are resources that are just down in Klamath County or something like that?
That has been something that has been asked of us, and it's one of the things that's on our agenda to see about taking, like, if people want to do things more regionally, we can create links so that people can do this. You guys, this was all built using Google Sites, which I have to tell you, anybody could build a website using Google Sites. It's pretty great, and I found it very, very user friendly. So, like, there's a lot of great ideas, and so if you have some, and something you see that you think you could wonder how to build a website, you too can build a website using Google Sites. Okay, independent living. This is where we put, if you click on that banner on the homepage, it will take you right here to, these are our voting lessons that are available, and I think you have until Friday, October 15th is when Oregon's voter registration deadline is. There are, so we'll show you how to do accessible voting. There's a video with that. There's also, these are the Disability Rights Oregon lesson plans. They're from 2016, but the material is still relevant because it's nonpartisan, and it gives you information about how to be an informed voter. This is the one, the accessible voting video. This was made by Chris Rita and one of the lead teachers in Clackamas, and it shows you, it's a PowerPoint, but it has a video that's embedded in it, and it is designed to reach a broad range of students, and they just made that, I don't know, a few weeks ago. But again, you have independent living, so there are lots of things in here about things students could do at home, students could do in the community, finance and budgeting, recreation and exercise. We've also tried to indicate if something is available in Spanish or in another language to try to give you that information here. There's tons of virtual field trips. If anyone has been in a training with me recently, you know I'm a big fan of the San Diego Zoo penguins. You are welcome to go and check those guys out. I believe you can find those. So we have lots of in healthcare. You can find those penguin videos in the self-regulation category. There's this website here, you guys. This is virtual calming room options. If you have students that just need to take a little break, I can't even tell you, there's so many cool things to do there. There's all sorts of animals you can watch. There are, there's calming music, there's meditative practices. It's really quite lovely. Everyone probably could use the virtual calming room options at this point in time. So we have lots of things about health and wellness. And again, lots and lots of lessons that you could use. All right, I'm gonna start to wrap it up here so I make sure Nicole has her time. We have a lot of things with online teaching and learning. This is information about how are we taking all those things that we used to do in the classroom or in the community, and how can you make them interactive and meaningful to students in this new virtual platform. There's a ton of really interesting stuff out there. You could go down a rabbit hole quick and fast. There are lots of videos out there if you have students that are struggling with how to connect with some of these things, like how to do Zoom or how to use Google Classroom. There's videos that are already done about how to walk students through all those things, and you can find them all right here. This is a cool one I like to really quickly point out to people. If you have students that need pictures or icons, these 3 websites right here do phenomenal work. I'm telling you, you can find a picture of absolutely anything you can imagine on those websites. It's really cool. And then this is about how to conduct online meetings with students, for whether it's IEP meetings primarily is what's here. Here we have community partners. These are a variety of statewide organizations. This could be, Mary Jo, where we are able to sort of shoot off and do things that are more regional. but we have these are links. They'll take you directly to these agency websites. Oh, look, if you have students that need to know what pre-ETs are, you guys, look at this. We have a whole video for you right here, ready to go. And it walks you through what services are offered. It features your very own Tony DePeel. All right. Other resources, I don't remember what we put there. Oh, right. This is where we have, this is the most recent online version of the transition handbook. As things, we now have, there's a contract to build the new, I don't know if I'm gonna say, if it's like the new transition or TTAN website with the University of Oregon. So things like the current handbook for transition and planning my way to workbooks, are those things that were online and housed with the, on the previous site. Once they are, it's moved and the new website is built, we'll be able to link to those directly from here as well. You can also find your handy most recent Oregon Transition podcast, or any back episodes if you'd like to go back and listen to some episodes. And now I am going to toss it over to Nicole, and she is going to show you the pre-employment transition services website. So I'm going to stop share. Are there any questions, Nicole?
There's a few comments saying, I'm going to share this with life skills teachers. And actually you have to register to vote by the 13th of October.
13th. Okay, thank you.
And there was one other comment. Where'd that chat go? Let me see. There was something else. Let me see, Sarah.
It was mainly just how amazing you are, though, Sarah, and how great the research.
It pretty much is. Having online job-related tours will be useful for students with limited transportation, even when there is no pandemic. It's true. A lot of nice compliments. Yeah. Nice
well,
job.
this has been a group effort. I'm just the current spokesperson, and this has definitely been a group effort, and it has been really nice to work on because it's the ideas of amazing teachers from across the state. We just created a place to put it all. So I hope that it is helpful. And again, if you have resources that you would like to share out with the greater community, just share it with your TNF, and we'll get it posted. We have a long, many pages list of websites we would like to add to the to this website that we're trying to face ourselves.
I think this is great too, Sarah, with reaching out to all these transition specialists. So many have things that they've been using, that if we can get all of that in one spot, that would just be so exciting. I think it's great.
You.
So please, people that are out there, do contact your TNFs if you have stuff you're using that's been going really well, or ideas.
So in addition to the TNF websites, the Pre-Employment Transition Services Group, both the statewide and regional support specialists like me, we came up with a website as well that is really kind of narrowed in focus. So Sarah's website has fantastic tools and lessons around all types of things, and ours is really focused on those 5 different pre-ETS categories. So I'm just going to go over this one real quick because you guys just saw a lot. So first of all, it just talks about pre-ETS, which all of you were able to talk about earlier. It also has links to the brochures. But then again, we have the same sort of categories on the side that Sarah's did. And then if you go, it is just really the hot topics. So it's just things that have come up recently, and it's very limited to things that we know work well because we've used it with students. So interactions with CIS, how to do informational interviews, how to set up a job club, and then how we can support you. So with YTP, it's kind of unique in that typically PREATS providers work with non-YTP schools, but we're in a pandemic and we're all in this together. So if you are a YTP specialist who is looking for support, or if you are just like, I want someone to think, out loud with and bounce some ideas around with, I really encourage you to know that the PREATS people, we're a resource too, and we're kind of in the same work right now. So going on, we have workplace readiness, where we talk about interview preparedness. And all of these are handouts that you can either download or activities that you can download, or we also have videos and website links. We have resume and master application, keeping a job, work-based learning resources. We have employer engagement, tracking work experience, informational interviews, self-advocacy. We have group activities. We have discussing disability, one-page profiles. And I saw somebody earlier asked about disability disclosure. That is a specialty with a few people on our team. So if you'd like more information, reach out to us. Again, we're more than willing to share what we have. We just don't want to put everything on here without explanation. Sometimes it's easier to walk through something with somebody one-on-one. And saying that, if you'd like to contact us, here's our contact page. So you figure out what your region is, and then you go down here and all of our beautifully stunning faces are here with our contact information. And if you have a specific topic that you would like to see, please let us know. And we are more than willing to either share it with you personally or put it up here. And if for some reason you have this address instead of the TTAN page, there's a link right here for that as well. So mine was really quick, but does anybody have any questions?
There's a question Kia asked about that, the site. So this is the PREATS website is its own thing. The Educator Resources website is its own thing. However, we've just created links within, there's a link on the resources one that'll take you to the PREATS site and vice versa.
Yeah. So we're all connected.
Any other questions? You guys have been working on this. You did a lot of work. Thank you. It's very helpful.
You're welcome.
And someone wanted to know if the links are on the YTP page. I'm not sure. That's kind of out of our, that's kind of out of our wheelhouse, but maybe it will be if you ask.
Yeah, I'm sure we can put it up on our YT, some links. Yes, we can work on that. Anything else? Any questions? Any comments? Well, I just want to say thank you. A lot of great material, a lot of work has gone into this, and we appreciate it. And it looks like we may be online for the foreseeable future. So it's awesome that we have all this material. A lot of thanks.
Oh, Terry, I want to talk about next month.
Okay.
Yeah, Community of Practice next month will be with our own Carol Tappan. Carol, where are you? Can we see your beautiful face? Say hi so people know maybe. Anyway,
Hi.
Carol is a transition specialist down at Grants Pass with Southern Oregon ESD, and she is going to talk about her wealth of knowledge for job development. Anything you want to say? Are you going to include virtual stuff? Any plugs you want to give to make sure all 90, I think we had 98 on here at one point.
No, I don't have really anything. I'm looking forward to talking about this. There will be a lot of time to ask questions. So if you're nervous about job development or just don't have a great deal of experience, there'll be tons of time to ask questions. So I encourage you to bring good questions.
Nice. Are you looking at also doing it during with virtual stuff and addressing
I
these?
have a little sheet that I'm going to work with, but I'm going to create something
Okay.
more virtual to go with it, so it's a little bit more interactive. I tend to just talk a lot, so I'll try to do something more than just talk.
Cool. So that'll be the second Monday, whatever day that is in November.
The 9th?
The 9th.
The
Yep.
9th.
2 to 3. So, and that information's always on the YTP webpage, how to connect and everything. So, you know, if you guys forget at the last minute, just put in your calendars for that. Thanks,
Thank you.
Carol.
No, thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for being here today. I feel like we got a lot of good information from both the Priettes and our two websites. So get out there and explore and use some of this great info. Thanks. Anybody else have any quick announcements, or we'll just say goodbye?